Councilmember Wynn, we're back on your agenda.
Oh, yes, sir. Next up is item number 10, approval of a text amendment to section 9.7.15 outdoor dining of the Unified Development Code to control the sale of alcoholic beverages in outdoor dining areas, and this is the first reading. Mr. Townsend.
This is first reading of an amendment to Article 9 of the Unified Development Code dealing with outdoor dining, adding language dealing with dispensing and storage of alcoholic beverage within the public right-of-way, and that is going to be prohibited and only without the express permission of Mayor and City Council. This is the first reading of the ordinance.
Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Article 9, Use Provisions, Section 9.7.15, Outdoor Dining of the Unified Development Code of the City of Roswell, Georgia, to restrict the storage and dispensing of alcoholic beverages and for other purposes. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. City of Roswell Unified Development Code, Article 9, Use Provisions, Section 9.7, Accessory Uses, Section 9.7.15, Outdoor Dining is amended by adding Section 9.7.15 B2F to read as follows. The text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the first reading.
Mr. Townsend, anything you need to add to that?
No, sir.
And this was to prohibit, to make sure that restaurants weren't selling across the chain on the sidewalk, and people would have to go into the premises to buy alcoholic beverages.
That's correct.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the first reading.
That'd be the second reading. Oh, it's the first
Oh,
reading.
it's the
Motion
first
to approve
reading.
the first reading by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item is initiation of a text amendment to the UDC, sections 13.7.12 and 13.7.15, related to standards of review for the HPC, which is the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Townsend.
This is the initiation of a text amendment for the Unified Development Code dealing with Section 13.7.15 related to certificates of denial, certificates of appropriateness which have been denied by the Historic Preservation Commission. Language that's being added deals with when that appeal to Mayor and City Council comes, what factors are being utilized for that determination, and what Mayor and Council shall use dealing with factors and guidelines in making their decision on the appeal. This is only the initiation. It will be then processed to the Planning Commission and come back to Mayor and City Council for first reading.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Davidson, the last portion of section 13.7.15 says Mayor and Council shall use those factors and guidelines in making its decision on appeal. My question for you is, should the Mayor and Council decide to send this back to HPC, is that an option, or is this essentially saying that once it comes to us for appeal, we're required then to make a decision?
Now, what it means basically is you will use those. You always have the option to send it back down. You would uphold the appeal and then send it back down to HPC if that was your wish, or you could decide yourself.
So we could decide that we agree with an applicant that the HPC did not use the guidelines appropriately, send it back and with direction to use the guidelines.
Correct.
Okay.
And you could also
Or we can make a decision.
make a decision to either deny or reverse.
Okay, I just want to make sure we
You
have.
either grant the application or rule with the HPC.
Okay.
So there are three choices: rule with the HPC, rule with the applicant, or send it back with guidance.
Okay. I just wanted clarification. That works. Thank you.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, to make sure we had still the ability to make our own decision.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to initiate the text amendment.
Motion to initiate by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The last item for ComDev is a public hearing for the 2035 comprehensive plan. It's going to be presented by Ms. Alice Wakefield. Ms. Wakefield.
Mayor and City Council, as you're all aware, it's that time of year again where we're required to update the city's comprehensive plan. And one of the requirements of the state law is that we have a public hearing to kick off the process. Here tonight we have Mr. Eric Lusher here with us from our consultant Palm and Company, and Eric has a brief presentation. And also I want to remind you that we have had a meeting of the Comprehensive Advisory Committee, and so this process is moving forward.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I will keep this brief. This is really basically to serve officially as our first public hearing as part of the plan. That is a requirement as part of the planning process. So really, I'm just going to go through what we're doing very briefly. So why are we planning? We're reviewing conditions in the community and ultimately to establish a long-term vision for the community. What does that mean? That means anticipating future needs and establishing policy guidance. And ultimately, we do this also because it's required by the state. For instance, this is basically the process that enables you to be a qualified local government, which in turn qualifies you for various funding mechanisms, grants, et cetera, et cetera. And it's also the legal basis for your zoning. Who is involved in this process? Elected officials such as yourself, city staff, the public, the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee that Alice mentioned a second ago, us as the consultant team, and also regulatory agencies such as the Atlanta Regional Commission and Georgia Department of Community Affairs. A little bit about our process. This graphic that you see before you is really sort of a combination of a schedule and process. The intent is to sort of kind of summarize what we're doing in one kind of simple one-stop shop. Basically, there are 5 major pieces or phases of this planning process. Key findings, which we're basically doing data collection, which is a part of the process that we've more or less completed at this point in time. We're moving into defining needs, after which we will begin working on preparing a work program, which will eventually result in the actual plan update, which then goes through the adoption process. If you see the horizontal lines below the arrows there, you will see the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee. That's the CPAC meetings, public hearings, and community outreach. Again, this is public hearing number 1, so you can see where we are. We have already had our first Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee meeting a few weeks ago. Our second committee meeting will be on November 5th, I believe. Yes, November 5th. And we're looking at probably January and February for a third and a fourth meeting with that group. We will also be having community outreach through this process. We have identified the dates and locations for those meetings. So the first week in December, Tuesday, December 1st, and Thursday, December 3rd, we'll have 2 locations or 2 meetings at 2 locations that we will be available. And we'll be presenting information on the work that we're doing and also soliciting comment and just general information from the public. In February, we will have prepared a draft plan update, and then we'll also be going through, before the public, having a outreach opportunity for the public to see the plan, give us additional comment, and that will be, again, the first week in February. You can see the locations there. We try to make it as geographically advantageous for folks to come out and see. Additionally, information will be available on the City of Roswell website under the comprehensive or under the community development part of the website. So periodically, you or members of the public who are interested in what's going on or they want information about upcoming meetings, all that information will be provided there. Finally, what does this plan really consist of? There's really 2 pieces of it, and one is sort of a short-term part, and that's really going through the year 2020, and that's the work program and capital improvements. Those are more finite kind of specific line items of what the city will be moving forward with. Then the second half of this planning effort really is more of a visionary mechanism or visionary exercise, goes out to the year 2035 and includes things such as identifying needs and opportunities, focusing on specific elements such as housing, economic development, transportation, demographics, natural resources, et cetera, and also a component that looks specifically at goals of the community. So what is the vision for the community? And that ultimately is reflected in a future development map, which is basically your mechanism for zoning. And like I said, I kept it brief. Hopefully it was brief. If you need to contact us, again, I'm Eric Lusher. You can see my contact information there. I work with Pond and Company, the consulting company, our consulting firm working on the plan. And also you can see Jackie's information as well. And that is it, unless you have any questions.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Dippolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lusher, one of the items that has come up as far as the comprehensive plan is the need to look at our suburban residential category, which is the big blue stuff across the whole map. Is that anticipated to be part of the discussion, how we break that down a little further and really seek some input on that?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
Is there any rule about committee members commenting at the public hearings? Is there any reason why a committee member couldn't comment?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Do we have a
Thank you.
motion? No, we don't need a motion. This is just a presentation.
Just a presentation. Keep it simple.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public comment, absolutely. Does anyone here wish to have any questions or comments regarding the public hearing of the comprehensive plan process or anything, or the vision which we're trying to develop? Yes, sir, come forward. Apologize for almost forgetting the public hearing part of this. If you'll give us your name and address, please, and we've got 5 minutes.
My name's Jim Quinby. I live at 285 Hembry Road here in Roswell. I heard mention of an advisory commission on this project. How are the members of that advisory commission chosen?
Appointed by council.
Mayor and council selected them.
Would any of those members of the advisory commission be developers?
I couldn't tell you. That would be yes.
So developers are going to have input into how the code zoning of developments that are going to be placed in this city. They get their input into it and where they would like to see it.
Yes, sir, along with all the other citizens of Roswell.
Isn't that pretty much like putting the fox right in the middle of the chicken coop?
No, sir, it's trying to get input from all elements with their citizens, their neighborhoods, members. There are some folks in the development community, there are architects. Council could give you a better description of the different qualifications, but the idea is not to get one-sided input. It's trying to get input from all elements, from the business community, from the nonprofit community, from everyone.
Well, it seems to me it puts the developers in the position of having inside information and inside influence over what's decided and why, where, and they're the ones who are going to profit directly from whatever changes are made. To me, it looks like a definite conflict of interest, and I just don't understand. It's like giving free access to, what would you like to put over here? Well, we'd like this, and it goes, and then 2 years later, here's a developer. It's got a piece of property that's just set up for that type of development.
Well, if the developers had control of that, then I might agree with you. But the developers are in the minority, and ultimately it's the council who adopts the plan based upon their recommendations. So to say that we're not going to consider one group of the public would give you a plan that was not balanced. So I disagree with you, respectively.
Well,
Councilmember Wynn would like to respond.
Mr. Townsend, do we have a list, or Ms. Wakefield, we have a list, and I'm assuming that list states the person's affiliation, because we have HOA presidents, we have, the citizens, we do have a couple of developers. Does that list state that?
It did say 25 member committee, and the committee is made up of the Planning Commission, the chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission, the DRB. There's someone representing Roswell Inc., the Downtown Development Authority, and also the remaining members is made up of residents and HOA members. I'm trying to think of who is a developer that's on the...
Well, I think Dave Schmidt is a developer, but he is on there as
The past chairman.
the past chairman
Yes.
of.
Yes, we have the Recreation Commission chair is also a member of, we can make this available to you, but there's a list of probably about 10 or 12 residents that is on the committee.
All right, regarding inside information, all information that
All
is received
information
are
is
public hearings, so there's no inside information.
And
As far as comments from the public, you are encouraged to give your comments and to give your input, along with all the other citizens. So I understand your position, but I disagree with it.
well, I also disagree with yours, so we're even.
well, sir, would you
There
like
we
to have
go.
would you like to have a copy of the list, sir? Ms. Wakefield could probably email you a list of the members if you would like to have a copy of that. Why don't you
And-
get with Ms. Wakefield and we'll get you a copy of the list?
Also, as I understand it, all of the meetings of this advisory committee are open to the public, and you're encouraged to come.
Yes, sir.
Any other public comment? I'd encourage you to speak up. Come forward, please.
Hello, I'm Carol Williams. I live at 210 Saddlebrook Terrace in Roswell.
Excuse me, but could you lift the microphone?
Is that better? Okay. I would like to see language that keeps high-density development out of suburban residential. I would like to see our UDC tightened to make sure neighborhoods and the character of the area are protected. I would like to see the transitional areas like Crossville tightened and reduced so that they do not intrude into suburban residential, and also to make sure that there's the proper infrastructure for different developments are there before approving something. Apparently, I know of a couple of things that folks want to do something and everything would be fine with the infrastructure if this was done, and there aren't any plans for this. So, thank you very
Thank you for your
much.
comments, and I noticed that our consultant was writing down your comments, and so appreciate your input. Anyone else wish to comment? Yes,
I would like to make one comment because the information that was just presented came from an email that I was forwarded to, and it contains some information about my goals that I would like to clarify.
certainly. Before
here-
you comment, though, let me make sure there is no one else in the audience who wished to make any comments before I return to council. Anyone else who wished to comment, have any questions, make any suggestions? If not, public hearing is closed. Council, you are free to make your comments.
My turn? Okay. I think one of the goals that we discussed early on was we ran across a number of occasions where the last comprehensive plan didn't always serve us as well as we had hoped. And because there were the character area system, I think, gave us some vagueness that I think we really wanted to hone down on. And how that happens will be however the public decides it. But I do think that there is a concern about some of these transitional areas, and I think our language was not clear. And that is my goal. I do not have a preconceived notion of how those decisions will go or how they're made, and I don't appreciate my goals and thoughts being interpreted by other people. So that is my position.
Any other comments the council would like to make? Or questions regarding our comprehensive plan? Look forward to the process, look forward to public input and creating a better vision for Roswell. Preamble of the Constitution, which says the Constitution talks about in order to form a more perfect union. Well, we're trying to form a more perfect Roswell. I like that, forming more perfect. I like that language. Great language. Next item, please. We're through with the community development, and we're moving on to Rec and Parks, which Kay Love is going to call that agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is approval to amend Chapter 8, Health and Public Safety of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances by adding Article 8.10, Park Police Agency. This is a second reading, so Mr. Davidson will have to read the ordinance, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 8, Health and Public Safety, Article 8.10, Police Protection of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 8, Health and Public Safety, Article 8.10, Police Protection of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by adding thereto a new Article 8.10 to read as follows. Text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Mr. Mayor, staff does not have a presentation unless council has questions, since this is a second reading.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion? Councilmember Orleans, I see, was that a question or a motion?
No, to make a motion, I'd like to move for approval to amend Chapter 8, Health and Public Safety of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances by adding Article 8.10, Park Police Agency. This is a second reading.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? You ran them off. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Moving right along to Transportation Department, Councilmember Diamond has a big audience for her agenda.
We are the fun department. You really should hang around for this. Our first item is approval of a resolution to submit a local maintenance and improvement grant, LIMIG, which we all love, free money, project list for the FY 2016 to the Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT. Mr. Asenbach is here to
If you can
explain
adjust your map so we can all see it.
in a timely fashion.
How did we pick these streets?
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Member City, Mayor and City Council. Mayor, LIMIG, as you know, every year, yearly grant based on population and center line miles. Our allocation this year is $629,000. We pick these, we have a practice in Roswell where we use our LIMIG grant every year to pave our most in-need collector roads. And so we rate the roads. If you can see here, it's a little blurry on this. I hope maybe it's a little cleaner for you. This graphic shows you geographically where the roads are in these bold lines, including this little section here, which is Mansell Road in the City of Roswell. And here is a graphic showing the areas, the limits, the lengths, and the pavement condition index, which is the number, which is how we use
Just one
to rate
question.
that. Yes, sir.
I know we're doing a master plan for the park, for the Riverside Parks.
Yes, sir.
Is there any chance that might impact what we're doing on these?
There is a great chance
Riverside.
that this might impact, and my construction manager, Neo, and I have had a conversation that this section of Azalea Drive may indeed be our last effort as that other effort develops, and we want to make sure that they're in sync. For instance, if we do some changes to Riverside, we may have adjustments to Azalea to match that with striping, parking, no parking, bike shoulder, no shoulder, those sorts of things. So this is the one that I've directed them to do last, and then we'll see by the time this gets through, it gets out to the bid, there'll be many, many months before this work is actually
I
done.
just want to make sure that we're not doing something we have to undo or redo because of that master plan.
Yes, sir.
So if things are still up in the air, is that going to create a problem with
No,
lending?
I think what we would do in that case is we would just not do this road this
Move
year.
it somewhere else?
Correct.
Thank you. Does the council have any other questions? We have a motion.
So we have more items on the list than we probably will have
That is
money.
correct, right.
There's
We
no
always
problem.
we always put 10 to get 8 to make sure we
So there's no
cover.
problem if we need to skip over one to go to another.
That's correct.
I would move to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously. Good. I'm a civilian.
Next item is approval for the mayor and our city administrator to sign a contract amendment with Blount Construction, Blunt Construction to add the FY16 citywide resurfacing and sealing program in the amount of $1,875,000.
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. Yes, this is our annual resurfacing and sealing program. What we're trying to do is maintain some of the largest infrastructure that we have in the city. We do that by a series of annual road ratings. We take our ratings and we take the money that we have. In your packet, we also have a list of all these roads. I've included it here on this graphic as well, but this is where they are geographically in the city of Roswell. And this year, we are expanding our sealing program. The introduction of mineral bonding has developed nicely in the industry, which means it is a form of sealing. You may think of it as like where people do parking lots and they turn them black and then they restripe them. That is not what this is. It's sort of in the same idea, but ours is a structural fix, which is to seal the roads to prevent the water from getting into the base so that they'll last longer. And if you'll notice on our ratings, the roads that we resurface are in visibly poor condition. The roads that we're going to reseal may not appear to be visibly in poor condition. Our staff is trained on pavement distress. We rate them in a computer model and evaluate them. These roads that we are sealing are in the upper to the middle end of the pavement distress, meaning that they may not, to the untrained eye, look all that bad. But there's many elements that go into this rating system. The idea of sealing them is that they will extend their pavement life so that we don't have to reseal them as often. We take a portion of our budget, we're taking $175,000, and using this sealing, we think this is a prudent course of action to extend the life of our pavements.
Does the council have any questions? Are we making efforts to widen shoulders where possible for
Yes,
bicycles?
Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Asenbrock, I do have one question. If you could go back to the resurface, actually, you have the resurfacing list.
Yes, sir.
There is the section off of hard scrabble, it looks like, where there's a number. Yeah.
Here?
To the left of where you are.
Down in this area?
Yeah, this area we're resurfacing.
This is in Brookfield?
It's in Brookfield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It looks like we're doing the side streets, but we're not doing the main street. And
We go to wherever the roads are in the worst condition, so we let the pavement condition index guide our efforts. So in many cases, we do some of this side. I believe we did that Main Street just several years ago. It's in actually very good shape.
Okay, so it's not gonna, that was kind of my question. Are we gonna tear up the main street because we're going right to the edge with the side streets?
No,
can
sir,
do
we
that all seamlessly?
mill, the direction that the staff gives the contractor is very specific about limits, and so the milling and the resurfacing operations are specific to the areas of the roads that need that work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve the contract for resurfacing and resealing by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of a resolution instituting a pause on street light installation along all classifications of roadways within the city of Roswell. I'm not sure we've ever done a pause. Mr. Asenbrock can explain it.
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. No, I don't think we ever have, but this is, what we're seeing is a bit of a shift. Well, there's a couple things that are coming together here. The city's budget grows when these streetlights come on board, and they come on board for a lot of reasons. When these developers want to, we have city standards, and we meet those standards for lighting. Occasionally, we'll get requests from citizens, and it goes something like this: I jog in this area, and at night it's dark, and I want a street light. And in the past, we were very responsive and said, "Sure, we'll jump right on it. We'll work with the appropriate power company, and we'll get that light." And this is not a big. There are not a lot of these requests, but they've come over time. A lot of citizens just expected that they paid taxes and that this was something that we just provided. What we've seen culturally is that what will happen is that the person that comes to us is, say, a jogger, and then we get the street light in and they move. And then the requirement goes away, but the street light there is burning forever. What we've seen in the culture is becoming more sustainable. We've seen a lot of efforts. The city of Roswell, we recycle. We do things that like take out incandescent bulbs and do more energy efficient bulbs. We're all energy conscious. And so what we've seen on our roads is that people that jog will now wear reflective gear. They will take flashlights or chem lights with them. If they're walking their dog, they will take a flashlight, or they'll put a reflective vest on the dog. I've seen lights on the dogs. And so people now are less inclined to think that the street light is the solution for the lighting, especially for a temporary nature. What this does is provides the staff with a little bit of an understanding when we're interacting with the citizens, and we can tell them, if you really think you need a street light, we can get you to the right point of contact at Georgia Power or the 2 AMCs, and we can help you if you really feel like that's your best solution. But we're trying to guide them into a more sustainable solution, because many times these lighting needs are very, very, it's just so narrow that the street light is not the best solution, and this will allow the staff to give requesters alternatives.
I guess the question is a pause that we're just going to stop them across the board, or does it mean we're going to be exercising more discretion in granting them? Are we doing a pause to develop a new policy? I'm not sure.
Probably all the above, Mayor. I mean, at the first, it gives the staff another tool in its tool bag. Secondly, it is that the number of requests are on the downside, and I think if the public understands that we are trying to be good stewards, and
I support what you're doing. I'm just trying to understand it a little better. The pause is until December.
It has a date.
Until December 31st, 2016. And we hope to develop new policies and,
yes, sir,
and better practices during that time period.
We're watching this.
And so we're going to be coming back to council with some policy recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Diamond.
I look at this as just kind of codifying what our direction to staff was. Try to save money and try to reduce our costs and try to find new innovative ways. And so hopefully by then there's some technology we can use, or some lower lights, or some other alternative that we can come up with to answer the call.
I was talking to somebody at Jimmy's and talked about stumbling, and I said, get a flashlight. So,
well,
just exactly what you said, get a flashlight. And I said, if that doesn't work, bring out your iPhone and it'll work just as well. Oh yeah. All right. So do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve the pause by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second. Mr. DiPolito wants to pause too, so he seconds it. We have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
I'd like
Any
to-
further discussion by council? All in favor?
It's not that I want to pause, I want to be more sustainable.
More sustainable. It's sustainable pause. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, skipping to item 19 is approval to initiate a budget amendment to reallocate 2013 bond funding in the amount of $2,590,263. Mr. Eisenberg.
Thank you, Councilmember Diamond. So we are recommending to the city council that we take the money that had been earmarked for the early off-ramp and we do two things with it. One, we're talking about, say, on the order of $2,600,000. We take $500,000 of that and we apply it towards Holcomb Bridge at Georgia 400. And I have a graphic here. This is Georgia 400 and Holcomb Bridge. It is indeed our largest gateway. It may not be the historic gateway, but it is certainly the most number of cars. And what we'd like to do is some aesthetic improvements, which were contemplated and included in the bond that we passed. And what we'll do is we will take $48,000 and direct a contractor to redesign the fence that is over the bridge. And we will also include some minor things included here, reconstruct some sidewalks, swap out some guardrails with some more aesthetics. And we'll try to take $500,000 of that and improve, in short order, the image of the people that come to Roswell and through Roswell. And then the balance of the $2.1 million will be put on Sun Valley, which is a very important project to this city. And we have seen our bid climate change over time, and we anticipate that bids will be higher for that project. We are currently out to bid for Sun Valley Phase 1A for the second time because the first set of bids came in way above our budget. We're hoping with some tweaks that we made to the design and some vendor outreach that we can get more and better bids to go forward with that construction right away. This money would be available for that construction.
Council, any questions? Do we have a motion?
I just want to make the comment that it is in no way indicative of our desire to abandon the early off-ramp concept, that we hope that at some point that will come back. Move to approve.
Motion to approve budget amendment by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Is any public comment? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. City Attorney's report is for closure. Discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate. Do I have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember DiPolito, second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned for closure. 9:30 is not bad.
It'll be later than that on October 12th.